What is up, everybody? It's Joe from JLW Games, and today we're going to be building a PC. Let's go. Alright guys, so before we start, I'm gonna go over everything that's going inside this thing, from each and everything. Now, before I get into that as well, I do want to point out that this is only the second computer I have ever built. I did build one prior to this, and it was my first build ever. It was for a coworker, and he absolutely loves it. And ever since then, I've been hooked on actually building computers now. Like, I was so excited to start on another one. I kind of invested a little bit into these components as well, and I'm going to be selling this as well. So after this build, if you guys really do have interest in purchasing this thing, I am going to be putting it up for sale. It will be posted for about $1,000 based on the components I have and everything, and we're gonna start from there. So but anyways, going into this, oh, my SSD fell. So we'll just go ahead and start with it. So for the SSD, I actually just picked this up. I was originally gonna do this build without an SSD and just do the hard drive, but nowadays it's 2020, you gotta have an SSD, and I realized this, so I did pick up an SSD from Best Buy real quick. This is a 250 gig, if it will focus, 250 gig 86 EVO Samsung V Nano SSD. So it looks like a pretty solid drive. I didn't need anything too crazy. So this was about $50 at Best Buy, and instead of ordering one, I wanted to get the build off today. So anyways, after that, we also have, speaking of drives, we also have a Seagate Barracuda terabyte hard drive, so you can store all your games and anything else you need, but we'll have Windows installed on the SSD and everything like that, so it runs nice and fast. So let's just go on the front here for our RAM. We have the T-Force Vulcan Z. These are two 8GB RAM sticks, 3200. Yeah, 3200. Let it focus, maybe. Yeah, it's not gonna focus. Anyways, these are two 8GB DDR4 3200s. So pretty solid RAM for the price point, so that's why I went with these Vulcan Zs. Never used them before, so I'm gonna see how they are. So next, going into, let's go into our cooler and CPU. So for the CPU, we are using a AMD Ryzen 5 2600. I've never used a Ryzen chip before. The last one was an i5 something. I don't remember exactly what it was on the specs on that one. I was just excited to build a PC, so I had parts and put it together. So this is a Ryzen 5 2600. Pretty solid from what I've heard. So not a super expensive CPU, but not like the cheapest in the world. So hopefully it'll get the job done pretty well. And to cool it, I did go with the thermal take cooler here. It's some sort of thermal take cooler. It's an air cooler. I could have went with water cooling, but I didn't want to spend too much on this build, so we went with air cooled, and this was only about $20, and it's got some cool RGB on it. Who doesn't love RGB? And then I did spend a little bit extra, probably more than I needed to, on the motherboard, but this is a really nice motherboard as far as it looks like. This is an MSI B450 Gaming Pro Carbon Max Wi-Fi. So this works really well, and it's ready for the AMD Ryzen 3000 desktop ready. So that's pretty cool. So if you ever want to upgrade the CPU or anything else, this is definitely going to allow us to do that. Whoever buys this, if they do want to upgrade eventually, they will have no issues with this motherboard. It also has Wi-Fi. I wanted that as a selling point, so I wanted to make sure I had a board that had Wi-Fi capabilities. I just think that is more, in my opinion, more just more appealing. So, and now going into the graphics card, we went with the MSI Gaming X GeForce GTX 1650 graphics video card. So this one's actually solid as far as I know. You'll be able to do some pretty good 1080p gaming and maybe some small 1440p. For the price point, I think it was $150 something, $150 or somewhere around there. Not too bad, but again, I don't know much about this board. I looked up some reviews. I saw some that were decent, some that were okay, and then some say that it wasn't worth the value. There's better value cards out there, but for the price point. So actually going after building all this, you know, I did realize one thing, which I'll get to, but we also have a Thermaltake 500 watt or smart 500 watt power supply. I did cut some corners with the power supply, and this is probably one of the cheaper things that are in this build, but it's definitely going to get the job done, no problem. The only downside is it does have ketchup and mustard cables, which does suck, but it does, I believe it has like a black sleeve over those, so it won't be as bad. But this is actually a pretty nice budget power supply that I think we'll still get some decent performance from overall. So, but anyways, after acquiring all the parts that I needed for this build, I did realize a few things that I could have done better after, you know, just kind of doing some research and stuff. But I was just so excited to get to it, and that is, you always want to try, if you're going for a gaming PC, try and put the most money into your graphics card. And then looking back on it, I probably could have spent a little less on the motherboard, because this motherboard's about $150, so it's a pretty solid board, but it's pretty pricey at the same time. So I could have maybe cut some corners with the board and maybe put it more towards the GPU and get some better performance out of the PC as a whole, but it's still going to be great. The 1650, I think, is still going to get the job done pretty good. So if you do if one of you do pick up this PC from me, you know, you can always upgrade it later. It's ready to upgrade if you ever want to upgrade it, but this is going to give us some solid performance, and that is a cat who's not going to be part of the build, but maybe they'll help us later. And as for the case, EGO1, I don't exactly know what it's called, but off the top of my head, but it was one of the cheaper cases. It's only about a $40 case, and honestly, it's not terrible for the price, I guess, but the only concern I have with this case is there's not a whole lot of ventilation with it. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get into this build, so let's get to it. Alright, if I've learned anything from PC building, it is that most likely you should probably always start with the motherboard, of course. And of course, this is the B450 Gaming Pro Carbon Max Wi-Fi, and I really like the looks of this board overall, so I kind of think it's okay for the price point, or pretty good. I think you're getting a pretty solid product. So in the box here, we've got the board itself, of course. And another reason why, before I get to those comments saying, hey, you should know a lot more of what you're doing before you record it and post it on YouTube, I get that sometimes, saying, hey, you should really know what you're doing before you go up and do all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I love getting feedback. So that's the one thing, is getting feedback from you guys that may know a little bit more than I do, and actually helping me become a better PC builder, because again, this is something I'm really starting to get into. I don't know a whole lot just yet, but I'm still learning, but I know I can put a PC together, I can tell you that much. Alright, we just took it out of the packaging, and of course, what I've learned, always put it on top of the box if you don't have like a proper workstation or anything, and you're just using whatever to build it, you know, just use the box that it came with. It's a good anti-static whatever, to make sure you're nice and good to go and safe and all that stuff. So, alright, so we got the CPU here with the Ryzen 5 2600. It also comes with a gosh dang focus. But it's got a little sticker, I think, right there. But the thermal paste comes pre-applied with the stock cooler, which we're not going to be using. We're going to be using the Thermaltake RGB cooler, which I don't know if this has any thermal paste in it or thermal compound in it. If it doesn't, I do have some left over from my last build that came with the water cooler, because I did a water cooler for my last one. So hopefully this one's got some in it. If not, not a big deal. We do have some that we can use. So, alright, so here's the cooler out of its packaging. It looks like it's got pre-applied thermal paste. I don't know, there's a little thing on top of it that we have to peel off. before installing. So I'll take a look at that before we put it on. If it doesn't, no big deal. We'll just go get some of our own. So now it's time to get the chip out itself. The Ryzen 5 2600. Let's see if I can open this with one hand. Probably not. Oh, I got it. Nice. There it is. I should probably go ahead and lift this up. Does this have a little tab on it? I can't tell. Like, oh, that's interesting. All right, so here it is. Now you should be able to see that little dot in the top corner. You should have to line that up with this little arrow in the corner. And I've noticed that most Ryzen chips usually go sideways inside. So I believe that's how it goes in. So we're just gonna lightly drop it in and press it in there. There we go. Beautiful. It's not going anywhere. That's beautiful. CPU is in there. All right, so with the this cooler, hopefully that is not going to be a clearance issue. I really hope not. But you can see it's actually going to clamp on there quite nicely. Yeah, it'll fit on there just fine. We just got to get the, I believe, is this a back plate? I believe so. Not entirely sure. I might have to read the instructions just real quick. All right, so this is actually simpler than I thought. That bracket is for the, if you look at the instructions, that's for the Intel. If you're using an Intel board, but we're using AMD, so it just kind of clamps on there, which is actually really nice for us because that's a little more simpler, I think, than having to do that adapter. Now, we're gonna go check, see if there is thermal compound on this. I'm not entirely sure if there is. I also want to make sure I put it on in a way that makes sense with our cable, so we can route our cable to a place where it makes a little bit more sense. So if I peel this, I kind of want to make sure I know where this is going to go first. So these little things clamp right in there. Okay, I'm kind of getting a feel for this. All right, hold on. Wait, is this side's different from this side? Maybe I should read the instructions again. And there is not any thermal compound. That's just a label. That's literally all it was. I thought there was a full thing underneath that, but yeah, no compound. So we're gonna have to apply ourselves. So I'll be right back and grab the extra that I had from my last build. Okay, after a couple of minutes of searching, I finally found it. It's a little thing. There's not a whole lot in there. I think it will be just enough still, just for this part. So I think we'll be okay. That is pretty crappy, but oh gosh, I just tripped that over. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I think, hopefully I didn't do too much. I may have. But I think I'd rather do too much than too less, maybe? Is that a thing? Alright, so I think I definitely want the cable going upwards anyways, so I think this will be, our best bet would be to go this way. It doesn't really. You don't mess anything. Oh gosh. Is that even gonna reach? Okay, so I figured it out, kind of. At least I think I did. So, the ends are actually very bendy and kind of teeter-totter. That way it sticks in there nice and tight. So I just kind of had to clip it in there. I probably should have recorded it, but that's all right. So yeah, we got the cooler in. Next, we have the RAM sticks. So let's see how this will go. We just gotta open it up. Do they go on both sides? And hopefully, maybe I should have done these ones first. Maybe. Hopefully I am putting it in the correct way. It looks like I am, so there we go. Press down, there's one. Get our RAM sticks in there. There we go, RAM's installed. RAM's one of the easier things to do. Sometimes you just gotta throw it in there pretty hard, trying to keep my workspace a little tidy here, but there we go, we got the board. I think next, we're ready to prop this baby into the case and potentially get the power supply in and start going from there. So let's get into it. All right, so here we go. We are here with the case now. I gotta get that sticky in there a little bit. And we are going to take off our side panels. But here's the case on the inside. It's actually a really good case, I've noticed. Here, oh, we are pointed the wrong direction, but it's actually a pretty decent case on the inside. You got the shroud over the power supply, and then of course you got a lot of space back here for cable management on the other side, I've noticed, which these are the good positives, really good positives with this case. The only downside to this case, I would say, is definitely the amount of, or lack of ventilation. All right, pop that off. All right, so we already got some cables back there and everything, so, but yeah, we're gonna pop in that motherboard. All right, next, before we put in the motherboard, actually, we gotta put in the I/O shield in the back, so we can get that in there and lined everything up. If I can open the packaging. Oh gosh, that's weird. This backside's like really kind of spongy. It's got like a, kind of like some foam in between. That's actually very interesting. So we want to make sure this is lined up the way we need it on the back. Did it come in? Did it pop in yet? Oh. Get in there. Come on. You know you want to. Oh, I think it's in there. Wait, maybe. Yeah, I think we're in there. Nice. All right. I think the I/O shield is in there as good as it's gonna go. And now, last time I had to use, get this out of the way. Last time I had to use some riser screws to make it line up. I don't know where this is gonna sit, so we're gonna try it out and see where it sits before we get too far. Ooh, hopefully that fan doesn't get in the way. I think it's gonna be just okay. Just clear enough. Maybe. Just clear. Oh gosh. That fan cable is in my way. It is blocking me. We don't want that. Alright, let's get you in here. You're gonna sit in there like a glove. Alright, let's see. There's that. Okay, so we got some, those are some Seagate cables. Wait, did this come with screws? I'm sure it did. Alright, I finally found screws that do fit it, and I don't know if I just misplaced some, but I thought that it came with some, but I could not find any anywhere. But I did find these left over from the last build, so hopefully this goes smoothly as well. So I'm gonna try and get these suckers in here to hopefully hold this thing in. Everything's good to go. Now I think we are good to go ahead and install our power supply. Yeah, this guy right here. So we're gonna crack it open and start getting power to our system. So let's get into that. All right, so opening up the box, we have, oh gosh, I am destroying stuff. A little bit of some guides and stuff and instructions, everything like that. We do have a nice regular power cable. Here's all our cables and our power supply. Is it yeah, it's not modular, so we cannot replace the cables. So it is ketchup and mustard cables, which is the only downside I see to this, but at least it has some black sleeves, so it doesn't look too horrible. Let me get this bubble wrap off here. And we're gonna route all our cables to where we need them. So I know a lot of people, I think, go with modular cables, so you only use the ones that you need, but you know, for the price point, this is a good starting for someone like me, who is just now starting to get into PC building, so this is great. Let's get it in there. Alright, so this is the back side of the case. We got the power supply ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and get the zip tie off here. And you want for this particular one, we want the fan, I think, pointed down, since we do have some ventilation on the bottom. Or do we want it pointed up? Oh, I got a little baggie in here that I did not notice until now. That came with the case. Oh, and it's just kind of in the solid state. That's where all my screws for the motherboard went. Now, I did watch a video recently that says it's probably a better idea to have it pointed down. So we might go with that configuration, and it also kind of puts our cables on this side. If we've had it flipped over, the cables would be on the other side, which could make it a little bit difficult. I'm not entirely sure, but I think we're gonna stick with this configuration. Push this forward so we can get that screw in. Oh, I dropped the screw. That's not good. But we're gonna get the power supply installed here, and then we can start routing cables. All right, that is in there. So now I think it's a good time to maybe start getting our hard drive and SSD drive in its slots and stuff. So we're gonna get in here, screw these in, and yeah, we're gonna get those drives in there, and then we'll get everything connected and do some cable managing. But here is the Seagate Barracuda terabyte hard drive. Actually, if you add like $10 more, you can get like a 2 terabyte hard drive. So it's actually not a bad idea to go with that sometimes. But we went for a terabyte to try and save just a little bit of extra money, even though it wasn't that much. Get the drive in there. Oh gosh, I gotta go find some screws, of course, now. Yay! All right, and again, we are using this Samsung solid state drive. It's a 250 gig. It's a 860 Evo SATA drive. So there. So it's gonna go on here like this. They're a little bit smaller than hard drives. So we'll go ahead and get it in there and screw it in. All right, so we popped both drives in there, as you can see. Here, I can zoom in here. Yeah, look at that. SSD on top, hard drive on the bottom for those 2 trays. And now it's time to get everything connected up, because I think we pretty much have all of our hardware installed. We just gotta plug everything in, and then do some cable management. That is one thing on this build that I really want to do well at, and that's cable management, because my last build, my first build, I actually didn't do the greatest job in my opinion. I wasn't very proud of it, but for this build, I'm gonna do as best as I can. Now, there are no holes at the top here, at the top of the motherboard, so when we get the connector up here, we're gonna have to route it back around this way through the top of this hole maybe, or maybe one of these. I'd imagine this is going to be the one to go with. So we're gonna have to try and do some zip ties, do everything that we can to try and make that work out. But I'm gonna figure out, I'm gonna use my brain power to get it figured out now. I'm not gonna really show too much of this when, next clip will probably be pretty much done, because no one really wants to see cable management, right? It's just kind of boring, right? Okay, so coming back here, we've done a little bit of cable work here, not too much, and working on some cable management as well, getting some stuff connected. But at this point, I think it actually is a good time to start getting the graphics card in, video card. So why not get started on that? I have started plugging stuff in. It is a mess in the back at the moment. I'm trying to figure out some of the cable management that I'm going to do. I haven't used any zip ties just yet. We're going to go ahead and crack open the graphics card. So let's do it. Alright, so here's the video card, opening it up. We do have a folder with, I think, that has some discs, drives, and stuff like that, maybe, and a couple things. And here is the card itself. I'm gonna pull it right on out of here. I don't think there's anything else that comes with this. Nope. It's actually a pretty good looking card, so I gotta say, give it that. Visually, it looks pretty good, so no issues there. Got a little thing to peel off here. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Just like that. And we're gonna go ahead and we gotta take this cover off as well, and we're gonna install it right in there. All right, here we go. I got it in my hand, ready to pop it on in. I already opened up the little bracket thing, so we wanna make sure, oh gosh, this is hard to do with just one hand. Oh crap. Well, I figured it out. We actually had to take off another panel because it uses these two and does not use the top. and that's where it fits in. So that's our problem that we have. So now we just gotta slot her in right here. Maybe if I could get it in. That's actually really hard to get in there. Jeez. Uh-oh. That's all right, we got it popped in. Our GTX 1660. A little hard to kind of wedge in there, but we got it in there. We just got to screw it in, and of course plug it in with the cable, and it should be good to go. And then we'll be pretty close. So just a little bit more cable managing. All right, after, I don't know, maybe even a couple hours, but maybe an hour or so, we went and did our cable management, and I've changed a couple things here since the last time I was on screen here, and we did flip the cooler upside or to the other side, so the wire will go up this way, and that way it's not down here, because there's just not really a good way to route it from there upwards. So having it closer to the top actually made it a little bit easier, or I think would make it look a little bit better, instead of trying to figure out a way to get it all the way down here, because that red wire has to go all the way to the bottom right here. I hope I plugged it in right. I went by the instructions, and according to the instructions, I got it in the right spot. So we'll see. It didn't seem like it really fit into the prongs that well, but according to the instructions for the cooler, it says, and it showed had different company boards. So it had MSI, which I relocated it where it was supposed to go, and everything's good there. So as for cable management, I'm definitely not the greatest in the world, but I think all things considered, I did a decent job. Now, what would have made it a lot better if there was an opening at the top here for the I think it's this, is it the CPU? I forgot what it is, but again, I'm still kind of learning. But the prong that's usually at the top, or the plug-in that's usually at the top, there's usually an opening at the back of the top where you can slot that in, but there's not on this case. And that's one complaint I have about this case, is that there's nothing up at top to cable manage there. So I had to route it around, and I tried to hide it as best as I can, and it kind of slightly goes behind the motherboard just a little bit. I hopefully don't think that will be a big issue. And then I had to route it out the window right here. I would have potentially probably routed it out at this top one here, but the cable is actually not long enough, so I had to go straight down into this one. So as for the cable managing on the front, I think I did a pretty solid job for this only being my second PC build ever. So the only thing I wish, or definitely I'm gonna look at next time, is definitely get something that's not ketchup and mustard cables, because I just hate those. I don't think they look, it's not too terrible. They do stick out like a sore thumb, like the yellow cables here, and the obviously the 24 pin is just crazy on the colors. But if we go to the back here, I'm gonna go to around. This is where, you know, you do a lot of cable management. If I can rotate this around into the light. So here we have the back side of the PC, and I think it's not the greatest I've ever seen, but I got the job done. So it's a little bit crowded down here, not too terrible, but then I did a lot of zip ties coming around here, and there's a few times where I wish I would have waited on the zip ties, because I had a couple more cables that routed through, but I had to add either another zip tie or something to take care of that, instead of, or I could have cut it all off and added a new one, but I didn't want to waste zip ties, so, which in a way I still did, if that makes any sense. So here with the drives, I wanted to make sure they were kind of still accessible, but at the same, oh, that one was kind of, I'm glad I caught that. That one was actually popping out there. I kind of tried to keep this open a little bit, as much as I could, but with all the cables, it is kind of difficult trying to route all this together. So hopefully everything in here works, and we're gonna pop this back panel on. I'm gonna keep the front panel off, and we're going to see if this thing powers up and see if we get a screen anything at the beginning. So if we do, it'll be an absolute win. If we don't, we're gonna have to troubleshoot and figure out what we may have forgot to connect or didn't connect. As far as I know, everything is connected right now. So that is the hopes that everything's going to work out. So we're gonna see this illuminate on the sides, because there are some LEDs on the sides of this case, which will be beautiful. So I've got a monitor ready over there. It's just a TV, but that way I don't have to unplug my computer just to use this. So we're gonna pop those panels on and we'll be right back. Alright, so actually we decided to go ahead and keep that back panel off for right now, because I had to quick plug in a disk drive so we can install all of our disks and stuff like that. So I don't want to forget that, because we have drivers to install and everything like that, and this does not actually have a place to put a disk drive. So I have my own that we're just going to temporarily plug in to get ready to go. So with that being said, let's go ahead and power this thing on. Alright, you ready? Ooh, that's nice right there. That blue RGB, and wait for that screen to change. That's what we're doing. Alright. And then we got a blue fan in the back. It's kind of hard to see through the camera of how this actually looks, but we also have, you can see kind of RGB coming from the motherboard itself, and it looks like we are getting into the BIOS. I did see something pop up, and it went away now, so hopefully it goes back. Oh, there it goes. See, we got stuff popping up. So we still got to install Windows and everything like that. So it wants us to move those. I think it's fine for now, but we're gonna want to move our RAM over to the other slots, apparently, if we're using dual channel. So that's what it told us right there. So reboot and select proper boot design, insert boot media or select a boot device, press any key. But it did turn on, and we'll be back in a little bit. I'm gonna try and, after we get Windows installed real quick, but look at this. Well, we're gonna get all the colors the way they need to be, and hopefully this system will be ready to go. All right, well, here we are. And I got all the drivers I needed to get installed, Windows is installed, I got Steam up now, and we changed the colors on the PC, so now it all matches. It's got that blue theme kind of going on, so that's good. So just had to download the little Mystic Light kind of app or whatever it is. I think it's called Dragon Center or something, because it's an MSI app, but you can, since we had an MSI graphics card, we were able to kind of mess with the graphic on here too, and I got it set to breathing at the moment. But I set everything to blue, made the everything blue on there, but we're gonna see how well we can game. I got the FPS indicator in the top right, so we can see how much frames per second we're gonna do. We're gonna play a round of Fall Guys. Not a very physically demanding title by any means, but we're gonna start out to see what we can do. I'm sure we can play it out max settings on 1080p. This is just also a very basic TV monitor. It's not really a monitor, it's a TV, and it's a very cheap TV, but I'll probably see if I'll maybe try even hook it up to my 4K monitor and see what performance we can get out of it. So, there we go. Oh, why Seesaw? Why do we gotta start on Seesaw? Sorry if the lighting's gotten a little bad lately, because, well, it's gotten dark out, and so here we are. Alright, so here we are playing Fall Guys, and we're sitting still at 60 frames per second. But yeah, we're running a steady 60 frames per second on the 1080p max settings. Oh gosh, I probably shouldn't go that way. But again, this isn't a very demanding title, so keeping that in mind, we just wanted to keep it, or start it off light to see kind of the performance that we're getting with this. So overall, not too bad. But yeah, we're steady 60 frames. Like, it is hardly even moving, so that's good. Again, this monitor is not the greatest, so probably need to test it on a better monitor eventually. But it is running pretty solid numbers right now. So no, we're not gonna make it. That's it. That's all. I'm usually a lot better than that. Alright, so it's a lot later. We downloaded Planet Coaster, and now we also got the side panels on and everything. I haven't took off the peel just yet. I was waiting to see what it would be like. Oh, there it is, right? Oh. Yeah! And it's on the other side too, so ready? Why is it always so satisfying? Ooh, yeah. Let's see how it does. And I got the frame rate up here. We're working at 570 frames a second on the the intro here. 550, 561 frames. Okay. All right. Everything's set on high right now, so we're gonna test it on high first, which is probably the golden spot right there. It's in 720. Let's go ahead and bump that up to 1080 because we want to see how well we can run 1080 on this card. It's kind of the goal here. So let's go ahead and apply changes to 1080. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Let's see how well it can run though. And we've got our settings on high. We're gonna open up an empty sandbox, and then we're gonna open up a small park and just kind of go from there and see how well this thing can handle Planet Coaster. So we're looking at 90 frames a second. Between 80 and 90 frames a second on a completely empty park on 1080 settings on high. And again, this monitor doesn't have the greatest pixels. I'm gonna try and probably use a different monitor for a little bit, but we are getting over 90 frames a second in an empty park. That is definitely unexpected. And again, we're on high settings, not ultra settings. Now if I set it to ultra, let's go ahead and set it to ultra. And see if we get about the same. Okay, so it does drop to around 70 frames on Ultra, but still, for an empty park, that's not too bad. I don't know how fast that was going to change once we get into a more populated park. So we're in the 60s now, and again, we're on Ultra graphics settings and 1080p, so that is pretty solid for this system. Like, you guys could probably run Planet Coaster pretty well on this thing, not gonna lie. Again, we're gonna test it and get into some more demanding parks when it comes to like, and stuff, get some stuff inside. That is pretty impressive. We're on ride and we're getting around 60 frames a second. This is unexpected. I wasn't expecting to get this good of frames on this graphics card, but that's not bad. Like, holy cow. Boom. Going through. Copperhead strike. Well, let's get to something a little more demanding. Alright, we're gonna go into Pirate Battle. Now, it's a very small park, but not too much, you know, but it still has stuff in it. And we're gonna start off a little light on this park and go from there and see what the frame rate's looking like. But here in Captain Lockjaw's 1080p full ultra settings, we are looking at around 44 frames a second. Very, very playable, of course. Around 44 frames a second. So between 40 and 50, kind of fluctuating between them two. And there's not a ton in this, but there's a little bit. Again, we're on ultra settings, you know, so that's full graphics. Now, if I go down to high settings, which is still really good, we're going to go down to high, apply. It's going to bump us up to about 60. So, really, this card is probably capable of running games on high/ultra, depending on what game it is, 60 frames a second. You know, that's kind of what it's capable of. So it can handle these games, no problem. Which being on high settings, 60 frames, between 50 and 60 frames, that is not bad. It's very playable, like easily playable, you know, and you can see it's very smooth. And on-ride POVs, I'm getting nearly 70 frames a second, so even the on-rides are actually a little better. Yeah, not bad. All right, I loaded up a little bit bigger, I think, and supposedly, and this is going to be the Ghostbusters DLC thing, and it's just got a lot more detail, more buildings, and of course you got the shootout ride. I'm getting around between 50 and 60 frames per second. We are on high settings right now, so not too shabby, still very playable. So you can probably build some decently sized parks and it could still fairly be playable. Now, that being said, you probably can't go too big before you have to start probably dropping your quality and stuff on the graphics. Now, maybe, I don't know, we haven't tested that yet, so that's what we're doing right now, is testing all this. So, going into this, we're going to switch it on to Ultra and see about how far the frames drop for this one. Alright, so we're down in high 30s, low 40s area. Now if I push play, I think it does drop a little bit. No, it stays about the same, at least right now, which is not too bad. Still playable, being on Ultra settings, so yeah, it's still pretty good. So I might get my 4K monitor out here here in a little bit, and maybe do some testing on it and see exactly if it can handle some 4K gaming at some point. You know, see how well it can run on 4K, which is something we might try out here in just a minute, and see if it's playable. You know. Okay, now we got the real display. This is a 4K monitor. This is my 4K monitor that I usually use. Okay, so I started to go ahead and start off beefy here on our 4K monitor, and we're running 4K resolution on Ultra settings with an empty park on the system. So as you can see, you can still move around. It's playable-ish. It's on the edge of playable. We're running about 23 frames a second right now on absolutely full maxed out settings. Like I said, this is a really good gaming rig for 1080p, maybe a little bit of 1440, which we're gonna test 1440 here in a minute as well. But this is full 4K at its fullest potential, and I have to say, like, the fact that it can even run this and not be super choppy is actually pretty impressive. So let's try 1440p and see what that gives us. Alright, now we're at 1440p, which is a considerable difference. We're now running in the 60 frames at the moment. If I move around, 60, 65, and we also put the graphics down to high instead of Ultra. So if we go to Ultra, this is 1440 maxed out. Ooh, we drop down to around 49, 50 frames. So we lose about 10 frames if we go up to Ultra settings. So this is Ultra settings right here in 1440p. It is very playable. So if you don't have very big parks, you could probably get away with 1440p on this system. But if you want full 60 frames a second, you're definitely gonna have to do probably 1080p or lower your graphics down a little bit. So, but this is 1440p. We're getting between 40 and 50 frames a second in an empty park. So not too shabby, but not the greatest in the world. But for what you're getting, you know, again, this is a 1080p system. You're gonna be wanting to do mostly 1080p, which is still very solid, you know, for the price point and everything that you get for it. But so yeah, it can play Planet Coaster, but just keep in mind that you're gonna have to probably be either on 1080p or smaller parks. Maybe you can be in little lower settings for 1440p. Now, again, Planet Coaster is pretty demanding when it comes to PCs, so because there's so much going on in the park and stuff on screen. So But yeah, it can run Planet Coaster pretty well. If you're looking for a PC that can run Planet Coaster 1080p or so, and still have really good settings, 1080p is the way to go for Planet Coaster, and there's no problem with that. I mean, most of you probably aren't even running on 4K, so unless you even have a 4K monitor, it's not gonna matter. If you have a 4K monitor, it might matter to you, but if you only have a 1080p display, it's okay. Alright, so after running quite a few games on it and getting to play everything, I can safely say that this is a very ideal system for 1080p gaming, maybe light 1440p gaming. So if you do like lighter games like, say, Fall Guys or League of Legends or something like that that is not very heavily demanding when it comes to GPU, you can probably get away with 4K on those. So, but for the price point and everything, I think it's a solid PC. Now, if you guys are interested in buying this PC, I'm going to be selling it. So, if any of you are interested in buying this PC from me, it's going to be kind of a first come, first serve, by the way. So, get on that right away. I'm going to be putting it on sale, listing it. I'm going to wait probably to list it for a day or so and see if I get any responses from you guys. We'll work something out. So, but if you are interested, go ahead and join the Discord. Links in the description down below. Follow the Discord, DM me, or if you don't want to do that, you can DM me on YouTube, if that's still a thing. But you can do that, and we can figure something out. So, the starting price is going to be $1,000 for this rig. So, not including peripherals. So it's just the system itself. Which has some nice RGB elements into it, and I built it myself. You guys watched it, and yeah, so and you can see some of the gaming that we can do on this thing. So, but if you guys are interested, please let me know, and I will be sure to get back to you on that. And if I don't hear anything from you guys anytime soon, it will be going on probably Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and someone can probably pick it up locally. So. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this PC build. I'm very excited. I can't wait till my next build already. This is only my second build, and it was a very good success, For the price point, I think we created a system that does fairly well in performance. When it comes to all your general stuff, it will get it done no problem. Again, I'm running a 4K monitor right now. The display right now is in 4K. So that's pretty cool, and so yeah, if you guys have interest, please let me know, and if you ever have interest on a lower budget PC, let me know as well, because I would love to build your guys some PC for you guys. So if you have, say, $1,000 not in your budget range, and you want to get something maybe a little bit cheaper that you want me to build maybe, I'm all for it. And I also want to hear from you critiques out there and get some of your guys' feedback of what I could have done better in this build to make it better. Cable management wise, this is the best cable management I've done since the last build. But I'll get there, and I appreciate you guys checking out the video, and again, thanks for your feedback. And if you want me to build you a PC, let me know, and we'll see what we can come up with, I think the lowest budget PC I can come up with is maybe $400 to $500, but we'll see. Get as much performance out of it as we can. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys have a great day and be cooler tomorrow, and I'll see you guys in the next video.